Hello, I'm joined today by Mark Shteiman from Allot, and we're going to discuss the importance of deep packet inspection in 5G networks and ways in which 5G security can be addressed. Okay, Mark, so let's start off with DPI. Why do we need it in 5G?
So hello, Ken, happy to be with you, of course. I think, first of all, we need to agree what DPI is. Of course, it stands for Deep Packet Inspection, but in reality, it's evolving technology to help CSP to solve some problems. And these problems are really about building the context of subscriber, consisting of application, device, location, and other network characteristics such as service plan. So since for the 5G is all about service and subscriber quality of experience, we believe that getting the specific subscriber and service context is extremely important.
Okay, but what about encryption? Doesn't that neutralize the advantages of DPI?
Not at all. It is true that due to encryption, it becomes much harder to look into the packet. And of course, the payload is encrypted even today. 80% or more of the traffic is already encrypted. But as I said, DPI is evolving. And in Allot, we have various algorithms, heuristic-based behavioral analysis, machine learning algorithms to make sure we are getting sufficient visibility and insights. Also, the depthness of the insight required is different from use case to use case. For example, if you're talking about application-based charging, of course, you need to get a very specific and accurate application classification. But if we're talking about congestion management, it is sufficient to understand the class of service. It's enough if we know whether it's streaming video, voice call, or browsing in order to apply proper prioritization decision. So using the technologies that Allot possess, and we continue to invest and develop, we are confident that we will be able to provide the required value, and I would refer to DPI as next generation DPI technology in this case.
Okay, a lot has been said about application awareness, but is it really so important? Isn't there enough bandwidth for everyone?
Application awareness is definitely not only about bandwidth limitation. As we discussed previously, for charging use cases, whether it's application-based charging or SLA-based charging, like gaming, when CSP would like to charge premium for low latency provided, so it's important not only for the bandwidth, but also from other aspects. But if we'll go for the bandwidth point, there is never too much bandwidth. The CSPs are business organizations, and they will not build something that they cannot eventually to monetize. And the monetization can come either through new use cases like AR, augmented reality or virtual reality or assisted driving, or from different business models. For example, charging over the top layer for dedicated slices. So while slicing is one of the key 5G promises, within the EMBB slice, within the consumer internet slice, somebody will still need to classify different applications to understand application quality of experience and prioritize application and services based on that. So while we are focusing on this conversation on 5G network, we need to remember that in reality, 4G is still and will continue to carry till 2025 more traffic, more volume than 5G networks. And of course, will remain with us for many years ahead. So overall, you definitely need to get subscriber and application awareness.
But what DPI add latency and which might negate any value that it might bring?
It's definitely true that low latency is another key promise, of 5G architecture. And Allot specialize, it's basically our know-how to introduce a minimal latency and only for the traffic of users who are utilizing or using that to another servers. So generally, we are talking about below 200 microseconds of latency, and it's only for 2-3 first packets of user flow. Thus, in reality, the legacy impact that we can introduce is really neglectable.
Okay. Well, a broader question now. What are the important networking trends in 5G that you see, and where is traffic management going to be important?
Well, we expect the volume of traffic to continue and grow, 30, 40% year over year, basically doubling, every 2 years. By the way, I think it's important to mention that Moore's law is dead, and then the processing power is not growing that fast. So there is definitely, a need for other solutions. On top of that, low latency traffic is growing. So I previously mentioned gaming and augmented reality, but there is also video conferencing. All these applications are requiring low latency. Another trend that we see on the market is related to the multi-cloud deployments, where basically core RAN elements or applications can be deployed on different clouds, whether these clouds are public or private. So in this heterogeneous environment, with continuous growing traffic, different requirements by application, and different deployment scenarios, we believe that CSP will be looking for comprehensive, unified traffic management system, analytics, and network protection solutions, again, coming from, let's say, one vendor, which can provide it end-to-end.
Okay, so let's turn our attention to 5G security. Why is it even more important to protect 5G networks? I mean, isn't security baked into 5G networks anyway? And why do CSPs need third-party solutions?
It is definitely true that 5G is more robust than 4G when we are talking about consumer security. And, it's focusing on subscriber identity management and privacy. And there are also standards covering, securing the core of the network itself. However, the security of the network from external threats, and by external, it's both threats coming from the internet, from the public networks, and internal threats coming from the access network, RAN. These are not standardized today in 3GPP environment. Okay, so there's no standard. There are some guidelines coming from GSMA, mainly, and maybe other organizations. But again, I'm repeating, there are no standards on how to protect the user plane, for example, of the network when there is a volumetric DDoS, denial of service attack. There is also no standard on how to deal with signaling attacks on the control plane. So to implement this kind of protection, the solution provided by core NAPs are not sufficient. And we believe that the CSPs should be looking for best of the breed solutions to resolve these issues.
Okay, but aren't 4G solutions good enough for 5G? I mean, what is so different about the 5G architecture that requires new solutions?
Well, 5G is very different from 4G in several architectural aspects. First of all, it's distributed and not centralized. There are many local breakouts to the internet. It's driven by the automation and orchestration tools, which, by themselves based on a lot of open source software. It is supposed to support a million of IoT devices, which are designed with the, let's call it, no security approach in mind, or some would claim with anti-security approach in mind, right? In each one of these unsecured devices is capable of issuing a gigabit attack towards the network in 5G. So the attacks now can come not only from outside, but they also can be originated inside the network. So, and again, the scale of the network is very different. We used to have, the need was to protect a small number of big central sites. And today we are talking about need to protect many small sites. So all in all, 5G security perimeter is much larger than the 4G one. And thus it's much more dangerous. So some approaches that work in the past will miss attacks now. So basically, for the right architecture, or for the new architecture, you need to get the new tool set to do the job.
Well, DDoS and botnets, of course, can impact latency and performance, but won't inline mitigation also slow down traffic?
Well, it's related, to our previous question regarding latency. And you're right, inline mitigation will affect to a certain degree the latency. However, we believe that the value that we are providing to the customer, which is much more accurate and faster attack mitigation, is significantly more important. So we are using our technology, we are able to detect more attacks types, that offline solution. and we are able to mitigate these attacks within seconds. So why we, again, from a latency perspective, we are introducing a minimal latency, as we discussed previously, below 200 microseconds, only for 2 or 3 packets. Overall, it's insignificant and impact to the traffic, which comes with a lot of value.
Right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground, and given that all that we've discussed, what is your view in terms of 5G? Is it more a challenge or an opportunity?
So I believe it is definitely, as any new development, any new architecture, 5G comes with its own complexities or, topics, the challenges that need to be resolved. But for Allot, giving the technology that we have, both in traffic management and analytics and in security, I really believe it's a great opportunity. And, we are uniquely positioned in the market in order to resolve these challenges and provide the right value to the operators.
Okay, thank you, Mark, for sharing those insights and perspectives. It's been great speaking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.